In the last video, we looked at integrating Firebase inside our Android application, and we set up everything manually through um, the help of Firebase documentation and console. And we set up the dependencies and our build configuration manually. Uh, so there is another way to integrate Firebase inside your application, and this one is much easier and it's provided to us by Android Studio itself. So if you go ahead and go inside the menu or the toolbar inside your Android Studio and head over to tools, you'll see an option called Firebase. If you click on that, it's gonna open up the Firebase assistant. Now over here you will be able to see all the services and tools provided to us by Firebase, and from here you can add the particular service SDK to your apps, and you can also connect to Firebase. So you do not have to add the plugins manually, or you do not have to add the Google services.json file manually. It's gonna do that for us. So if you go ahead and select any of these services, I'm gonna go ahead and select real-time database this time. Last time I integrated Cloud Firestore. This time I'm gonna implement real-time database. And if you select a service, you will have an option that says get started. If you click on that, what you will see over here is two options. One is connect to Firebase, and the second one should be add the particular service SDK to your app. Now, firstly, what you want to do is connect to Firebase, right? So if you click on that, uh, it's gonna open up your browser, and over here it's gonna lead you to this page where you will have an option to either select an existing project or you can add a new project. What I'm gonna do is add a new project. You can name it anything you want, and once that's done, um, you can pretty much keep the settings same as in the last video. Keep the analytics on and select the default account for Firebase and continue. It's gonna take a couple of minutes to make the project. Once the project is done building, you can continue. And now it's gonna give you an option to uh, um, connect your app to the Firebase. So you would have the option over here. You can just click connect, and it's gonna connect it for you, and you will see a notification inside your Android Studio that says your app has been connected to your Firebase account. Once that's done, you can close this and head over to your Android Studio, and now you're gonna see a green check mark over here that says connected. Now that is pretty much it for connecting Firebase. Now, if we go ahead and go into our project view and inside app, you'll see that it automatically added Google services.json for us. So last time we did this manually, now it has done this for us. Um, now, um, for the people that had trouble with the signing report, if you go ahead inside Gradle and you don't see the signing report option over here, um, you just need to run either run the Gradle sync from this sync project with Gradle file. And still, if you don't see the signing report, what you can do is go ahead into the settings and Gradle settings, and inside experimental you will have an option that says configure um, all Gradle tasks during Gradle sync, and you can check this. Once you check this, apply, and now run Gradle sync from this button over here that says sync project with Gradle files. And once you do that, you will see your task build up, and inside the task and right you will see the signing report. So if you had trouble in the last video getting to this part, that's pretty much it. What you need to do is go to setting, Gradle setting, experimental, Enable this configure all Gradle tasks during Gradle sync. Apply and just sync your Gradle, and you should be able to see the signing report. Now that we have connected our our app with Firebase, what we can do is um, add a service and test it out. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead in Firebase Assistant again, and I'm gonna add a real-time database this time. Last time I added Firestore. This time I'm gonna add real-time database. If you click on the service and click on Get Started, you will have an option over here that says Add Real-Time Database SDK to your app, or particular service SDK to your app. So if you click on this, it's gonna show you the changes it's gonna make. So remember, in the last video we added the plugins at the project level and the module or app level manually. This time it's gonna add this for us. So it's gonna add this project level plugin and a module level plugin or app level plugin. So you can just accept the changes, and it's gonna start syncing our changes automatically. You can view the changes as well in the build files. So you see, this is the line we added last time, which we did manually, and inside the modules we added this line manually, and also this line. So that is pretty much it for um, connecting your app with Firebase and uh, adding a particular service SDK. Now what I'm gonna do is quickly test out the uh, real-time database. So I have the same project setup. I have a button with the on-click listener, and what I want to do is send something over to my real-time database once the user clicks the button. So inside your Firebase, what you want to do is actually add the service here as well. So since I'm using real-time database, I'm gonna go ahead into the dashboard and select real-time database, and I'm gonna create a database. I'm gonna select a location, and I'm gonna start it in test mode. Once that's done, you will be able to see all the real-time data over here. So what I'm gonna do is set my browser over here, and just gonna make this bigger. Now what you want to do over here is um, like in the last video with Firestore, you need to add a couple of um, Firebase classes and Firebase methods, and you need to do the same process. You need to get an instance of the database. So there is an additional thing you need to do is in real-time database, and that is getting a reference to a particular path inside your real-time database, right? So last time we just referenced an instance, right? We just like connected through an instance, and we use that to manipulate our database. This time I'm gonna use something called Firebase database. I'm gonna name this variable mydb, and secondly, what I need is you can just click import class, and it's gonna import it automatically for you if you see an error over here. Second thing you need is a database reference. So if you go ahead and write database reference, that is also a class provided to us by Firebase, and set it to my reference. Now these are the two classes you're gonna use inside real-time database. Now, what I want to do is fetch an instance or reference an instance of a Firebase database. So I'm gonna do mydb is equal to, I'm gonna initialize this variable essentially. So mydb is equal to Firebase database dot get instance. So this is gonna return an instance to our real-time database and set it to assign it to mydb. Now over here, what I want to initialize, what I want to do is initialize this reference as well. So I'm gonna do my reference equal to, and to reference an instance, you need to use the instance object that got returned from this get instance method. So I'm gonna do mydb dot get reference, and that is pretty much it for getting the reference to a particular path. Or so essentially this get reference and take an argument as well. And um, if you if you don't specify any arguments over here, that means it's gonna get the reference to the root path, right? So like I mentioned in NoSQL, you have hierarchy, right? And you have the root level element, and then you have childs, and so on. So you have paths uh, like inside your computer you have your folder structure. It's similar in that sense that it has a hierarchy. So you have a parent folder, then you have a child, and then child, and you can keep nesting it, right? So if you don't specify an argument, right, you get the root node. So you get the root level, right? You get the root level element, uh, or node essentially. Now this is pretty much it for connecting and getting a reference. So what I'm gonna do is add some data to our root node, um, using this onClick method. So what I want to do is once the user clicks on this button, I want to add some data. So what I'm gonna do is add a dictionary type string and string. Essentially, I'm just gonna implement a simple message rather than adding a whole object. Um, let's say we have a message, or now what I want to do is also specify the name of my root node. So what I can do over here is basically use the reference object, this one, a reference, and you have a method called child on it, right? And the child takes in a path, right? A path string that is gonna be essentially the same as the collection in Firestore. So you have to specify a path, and you can specify um, uh, either the root name, or you can specify a whole path. So I'm gonna just add um, a node, a root node name. So I'm gonna say first message, and so this is essentially an extension to this. So basically what you get from this here, this line over here, is that once you get the reference over here, so your uh, root node is currently this, right? You have a slash root node, and once I do this, right, it essentially, what this does is essentially do this, right? So now inside the root, I have the root node is named first message, and then anything I add is gonna get added to this, right? So essentially this extends this, whatever reference you pass in here. If you don't pass any reference, that's essentially root node. Or if you pass a path over here, it's gonna be the path, and then it's gonna append the child next to it. So essentially you have path and subpath and so on. So after that, on after the child, after you have specified the path, uh, correctly, you have an option to set the value for that path, right? So if I change the method set value, it's gonna take an object, and what I'm gonna do is pass in this message, and that is pretty much it. So now once I click the button, I should be able to see changes over here. So I'm gonna run the app. So once your app is running, right now it's not gonna work, and the reason for that is um, this message over here. If you go ahead in your logcat, you will be able to see this error over here, a persistent connection error. And what this error says that um, Firebase database connection was forcefully killed by the server and will not attempt to reconnect. And the reason for that is the database lives in a different region. So earlier, when I was creating the real-time database, I changed the region from US to Singapore, and by default, your Firebase sets it to US. And if you have changed your location, then you have to update that in your Google services.json file. So, and why didn't that update automatically? Because once we connected our app to the Firebase, we didn't have the real-time database at that time. We were just connecting it, and we didn't have any services. I created the database after I connected, and it generated the Google services.json before the database was created. So if that's the case for you, um, you need to head over to your dashboard and go inside project overview and settings and project settings. And over here, you will have an option to download the Google services JSON file. Just download that, and simply, like in the last video, you can just copy this, and inside here go to project view, and inside app replace the previous Google services.json. Just paste it. It's gonna ask you to overwrite. Just overwrite. And right now this is the line it added, right? So this is essentially the piece of code that specifies the new URL, that specifies that your region is Southeast Asia. Uh, since I set it to Southeast Asia. Now, once that's done, this error should disappear once you rerun your app. So I'm gonna rerun, and once I rerun and go ahead and look at this error should be gone. So right now I don't have that error. Now I'm gonna go back to my database view, and now if I click this button, I should be able to see the message come up in real time. So if you keep clicking it, it's gonna keep updating this, right? Since I don't have a dynamic message, um, it's gonna keep this the same, right? So if I go ahead over here and add a counter over here, and every time I click this button, I'm gonna increment the count by 1. So I'm gonna string message continue count and count plus plus. Um, Now if I run the app and click this button, I'll see the count 1, count 2, count 3. Every time I click the button, it's gonna update. So you will be able to see changes in your real-time database in real time actually. And that is pretty much it. So if you get the persistent connection error, just make sure you update your Google services.json file and it's gonna go away. So if you make any changes in your Firebase console, you add services or anything, just make sure you update this Google.services, Google services.json file, and it's gonna fix everything for you. So that is pretty much it.